This is Cruz News. I'm Richard Stockton, and big thanks to our posse for coming out of their meditation class to join us here. That's great. Yeah. Not a thought in their heads. Our lead story tonight is a Santa Cruz tale of evolving attitude about mode of transportation. It is a saga of one Joseph Henke, a 28-year-old Santa Cruz man, a native who spent his entire life as his sole mode of transportation being a skateboard. At a press conference at the Tannery Arts Center, Henke announced that it is unfitting that a man of his stature conduct his business affairs on a skateboard. July 6th, Mr. Henke announced, "That's it, I'm 28. I'm moving up from my skateboard to a bicycle." Mr. Henke admitted that his choice of a flashy, expensive bicycle may have been caused by his quarter-life crisis. Whereas my extended adolescence has been rudely interrupted by my midlife crisis. I mean, a midlife crisis is 60 years old. What does that really mean? I mean, I'm going to live past I'm 119, is what it is. And so now we go with advanced technology to the Cruz News Future Cam, where we can look into the future. And here we see Richard Stockton, me, at my 119th birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, the Cruz News Future Cam. Now in racial equality news. Activist Simba Kenyatta, Santa Cruz City Councilman Tony Madrigal, and members of the County Community Coalition to Overcome Racism announced that the group has won a 3-year grant, $150,000 from the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. The coalition will use the money to look into where and how racism exists in Santa Cruz County. Santa Cruz reaction is guardedly optimistic about their work. We caught up with attorney Ben Rice, famous for his racial profiling cases. In Attorney Rice's most notable case, he represented Mr. Twister the Clown. Attorney Rice refused payment for his work. He represented the clown pro bozo. The clown, or more correctly, the nose-enhanced entertainer, has been arrested for putting quarters in parking meters ahead of the meter maid. The attorney demanded a trial by jury of Mr. Twister's peers, and that the jury be made up of 12 clowns arriving in a tiny car. The case was thrown out of court, but Ben Rice took the case all the way to the Santa Cruz City Council, who rescinded the parking meter law while all wearing clown noses. Even after the Mr. Twister the Clown case, attorney Ben Rice insists that systemic racism still exists in Santa Cruz.
There is that kind of systemic problem within the criminal justice system. Far more minorities get arrested for marijuana cases and for drug cases, even though the use by people of color is no greater than among white people.
So Cruz News looked into the possibility that sadly there may not be enough racism in Santa Cruz County for the County Community Coalition to receive additional funding when their $150,000 runs out. The question we want to know is, maybe Santa Cruzans are colorblind. Cruz News caught up with Santa Cruz Vice Mayor Ryan Coonerty.
We've done a lot of studies actually for police stops in the city of Santa Cruz, and found that there is very little to no racial profiling going on.
The scourge of color blindness can take many forms. A project funded by the state of California in conjunction with the Convention and Visitors Center of Santa Cruz. It's called Inspired by California. It's a video team of Kirby Scudder and Mark Halfmoon. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. They insist they are not even related when obviously from this picture you can tell that they are obviously twins separated at birth. Kirby Scudder and Mark Half Moon are videotaping people all over California to document what inspires them about this place. They received $6,000 in funding, whereas the Countywide Coalition for Racism received $150,000 to look for what is wrong here. Clearly, Mr. Scudder and Mr. Half Moon missed the boat here. They would have received a much bigger grant if they were not wasting so much time on documenting what's going well. You can see their work by going to www.inspiredbycalifornia.com. I mean, there's just so much more money in hate and fear, don't you think? Yeah. That's where the bread is. Okay. Yeah, it is. Now for Santa Cruz financial news. We're flat ass broke, man. We have nothing. We have nothing. We have no jobs. Some of us are trying to do this for a living. Go figure. Last weekend, a truckload of Santa Cruzans was caught sneaking into Mexico. Big Betty Burgers on Seabright Avenue is now offering quarter ounces. And a Motel 6 on Silverleaf Drive in Watsonville, even a Motel 6 won't leave the light on. I know. Frequently blamed, of course, as one of the architects of the credit disaster, former President George W. Bush was asked what he thought about the current credit crunch, and he replied that it was his favorite breakfast cereal. Here in Santa Cruz, local Bay Federal Credit Union CEO Carrie Berghofer. Y'all know Carrie? Come on. Carrie worries that the financial reform bill passed by the House of Representatives could shortchange her members. She questions the cap on fees merchants pay when a consumer uses a debit card. I mean, that's the last thing we want is the bank to be making less money. Berghofer complains that the cap would apply to the fees paid to the financial institutions with more than $10 billion in assets, and it would not apply here to our own Bay Federal Credit Union, which simply has $586 million in assets. Berghofer complains that if the bigger banks have to charge less, then the smaller banks will have a tougher time charging more. And this could reduce their windfall profits. So sorry. What am I supposed to say about that? And now for Cruz News Health News. Cruz News contacted the Sutter Maternity and Surgery Center of Santa Cruz and learned that males produce 250,000 sperm per ejaculation. So if you're watching this, don't you feel special? In medical marijuana news, Medican, the nation's largest provider of medical marijuana consultations and ID card distribution, has stated its opposition to the November 2nd California statewide Initiative 19, which will legalize and tax marijuana. Director of Marketing Kenneth Pettingill stated that marijuana is medicine and should not be administered without the guidance of a doctor. Really? I shudder to think what would have happened if I should ever gotten marijuana in my bloodstream without my doctor's advice.
Now we know what happened to you.
I mean, it might have led me to a life of hedonistic sexual pleasure, obsession with musical arts, and a life of frivolity. But fortunately, with the strict adherence of the counsel of Dr. Buzz Daly, who has overseen administration of my medicines, I have risen to this lofty position as anchor of Cruz News, telling dick jokes in front of a green cloth. Pettingill also contends that the tax revenues have been totally blown out of proportion because it's based on a $100 per ounce cost of marijuana, and he claims that the current cost for potent marijuana is $38. Now, upon hearing that potent marijuana is $38, the entire Cruz News audience wants to know where? Now, for more Santa Cruz health news, following up on last week's story, Cruz News determined that kombucha is actually leading to drunk yoga in Santa Cruz. Well, this week it turns out that New Leaf Market and Staff of Life are not selling it at all, and it is being sold in limited quantities by the Bagelry at $4 a bottle. Cruz News would like to let everybody know that we are holding the last bottle of kombucha in Santa Cruz, and when it comes time to sell it, you can get it for $1,000. And now, with the Health and Wellness Report, we go to CJ Jackson at Capitola Chiropractic.
Hey Richard, I am here at the Capitola Health Center in Capitola, California, of course, with Dr. Sheila Campbell, chiropractic extraordinaire. Dr. Campbell, I understand that you're here to adjust me today, and my father says I need some good adjustment. Can you help with that?
Is that an attitude adjustment, CJ?
Occasionally, depending. So what actually got you into chiropractic care?
Well, I think it's Thomas Edison that said the doctor of the future will give no medicine, but interest his or her patients, I don't think he said her, but in the prevention of disease and the care of the human frame. And I think doctors of chiropractic, such as myself, fit Mr. Edison's description. And chiro means hands. And I gotta say, after 14 years of doing this job, I really love alleviating people's pain and suffering using primarily my hands. It really is my calling in life.
That's fantastic. Are there any preventative health benefits from getting chiropractic on an ongoing basis?
Well, it can and does prevent surgery. It prevents the use of, potentially toxic drugs. Gets at the cause of the problem rather than just treating the symptoms. I mean, I don't think back pain or shoulder pain or neck pain is Advil deficiency. A lot of Advil deficiency out there.
You caught me on that one. I was so into your conversation, and then I had to get the Advil part.
It gets at the structural cause. And I don't think doctors heal patients. The body has the ability to heal itself.
Right.
And so the role of the doctor, I believe, is to remove the obstructions of the body's own ability to heal itself.
Well, it's very good, and that's true about any preventative health care, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
So is there anything particular that you specialize in?
Well, I really enjoy working on sports injuries, which obviously include more than just the spine. And I find a lot of the public don't realize that chiropractors treat other joints beyond the spine. So the shoulder, the elbow, the wrist, the foot even, the knee, the ankle.
Ooh,
They all have little bones, and sometimes those bones can be out of balance, misaligned, or stuck, not moving correctly. There's a lot of reasons to get adjusted, main two being misaligned or not moving well, or both.
And it helps with posture a lot too, right? You were saying earlier, is it because I need that for sure, the posture.
Right. Because we all know that when you have good posture, you
Yes.
look 10 years younger, 10 pounds lighter,
Yeah.
and 10 times smarter.
And the camera puts on 10 pounds, so we'll have to work on 20.
All right, so let's both get adjusted.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Sheila. We really appreciate it. And Dr. Sheila Campbell, she's at the Capitola Health Center in Capitola, California, right across from Shadowbrook Restaurant, actually. So thanks so much, Dr. Campbell, and I'm ready to be adjusted. I
Okay,
think.
let's do it.
And now for our special Pot Watch 2010 report. Here's our special feature with Santa Cruz attorney Ben Rice. What kind of law do you practice?
Well, I'm a criminal defense lawyer, and I've been doing this for 30 years, and in the last probably 8 years, I've become a specialist or specialized in my practice in narcotics cases, but most especially marijuana cases.
People arrested for marijuana violations.
That's right.
Okay. If the statewide Initiative 19 passes, legalizing the possession and taxation of marijuana, how is this going to make life different for marijuana users in Santa Cruz?
Well, there's a lot of unanswered questions, of course. The initiative allows cities and counties to come up with ways of dealing with the new law, like creating dispensaries or not allowing dispensaries. So I think that Santa Cruz historically, of course, has been on the forefront of trying to be creative and help medical marijuana patients get their medicine. And I think that because of that experience, that we can expect that the city and the county will figure out ways to make marijuana available to people who can't grow their own, and they'll tax it, and I think we'll all benefit from that law.
The Santa Cruz County grand jury report suggested that marijuana might cost $100 an ounce and be taxed at $50 an ounce. And they suggest that $7.45 million may go to the county of Santa Cruz in one form or another. Where would this tax revenue go? Who would get it?
Well, that's a good question. That's what we pay the big bucks to the city council members and the board of supervisors to make those kinds of decisions. We need teachers, we need cops, and we need intervention for people with drug problems. There's lots of need for that tax money, of course. And the kind of flip side of that, which is also a benefit potentially, is that law enforcement funds will be diverted to more serious crimes. Because right now we have this sort of bizarre anomaly of the city, for example, is permitting dispensaries to operate over in Harvey West, and the county doesn't have guidelines to allow dispensaries to operate, and they're spending lots and lots of money to prosecute people for marijuana crimes. I'm representing lots of people who are otherwise perfectly law-abiding citizens, good people, and they are getting prosecuted because the assumption on the street is if you have dispensaries over in Harvey West that are not growing their own, they have to get the medical marijuana from somebody. So people have a little extra left over after they grow their own. They run it over to Harvey West, and some of those people are getting arrested.
If Initiative 19 passes, so this is really going to cut into your practice, man. You're not going to have the
That's
client
okay.
base you have.
That's all right. I tell Bob Lee all the time, take away 30 or 40% of my practice. I don't mind. It's crazy to see these people get prosecuted, and frankly, Richard, I think somehow there'll still be lots of work for me.
And we'll be right back with Ryan Coonerty on Cruz News. And now we go out to Next Space, where I caught up with Ryan Coonerty talking more about the November 2nd initiative, Pot Watch 2010. November 2nd, Californians are voting on Initiative 19, which would legalize and tax marijuana. If this passed, Ryan, how would this affect citizens in the city of Santa Cruz?
I don't think actually it might not affect us very much. People here are already sort of acting like marijuana has been legalized. I certainly would have a huge impact on the state. It's going to be a really interesting choice for voters to make.
Okay. The Santa Cruz County grand jury report suggested that the county may be getting $7.54 million in tax revenue from that. Will the city of Santa Cruz see any of that?
The city potentially could see some of that. Every penny helps these days. But if we're going to have to offset that with some more education programs or jails, education, you're going to want
How to roll.
how to exactly.
How to.
And
They might know already, though.
They might know already. I mean, we sort of UCSC is a leader, but no. I mean, I think if you're going to legalize marijuana, you want to make sure that you don't have youth using it and abusing it, and so you're going to have to make sure you sort of offset that impact with education.
Education in drug abuse.
Yes, in the perils of drug abuse.
Yeah, it's awful.
Perhaps you could be sort of a spokesperson for that.
What are you saying? All right. Well, I forgot what I was going to talk about anyway. I know.
Funny how that happens.
No, I'm not stoned right now. Okay. So, what actually, if the Santa Cruz City got some money, the city council, it would be up to the city council where that money goes? Is that how that works?
It depends on where the revenue's from, but yeah, if this is from sales tax, it'd be an increase. But I mean, in all honesty, what it would probably do is just backfill the money that the state is currently stealing from us in order to balance their own budget.
Their own budget, like maybe we might keep the library open.
Yeah, an extra hour or two. Unfortunately, the state, because they don't want to make the hard decisions, tends to punish all the local folks who do make the hard decisions by stealing our money. So any new revenue tends to just offset the money that's being funneled into Sacramento as we speak.
Yeah. We're here at Next Space, where the co-founder, Jeremy Neuner, was fascinated with this little logo, and we are talking about marijuana, so the whole thing kind of ties together. Ryan Coonerty, Vice Mayor, City Council member, and local head honcho here in Santa Cruz. I'm with him now, and I read a report that Cynthia Matthews, council member, wishes to make sure that the dispensaries are nonprofit. Did she talk to you about her desires to move in that direction?
Yeah, it's actually part of our current law. We don't want to have people profiting from people who are in need of medicine, unlike the drug companies who reap
do that.
massive. But if we're going to authorize it, we want to put a little justice into the system. So we've tried to make sure that the dispensaries for medical marijuana patients are nonprofit and that the prices remain low for people who need that medicine.
So how are you going to do that?
We actually have strict regulations. They have to do regular reporting to us. They have to be a formed entity and nonprofit, and so we try to police it the best we can. We only have 2, so it makes it pretty easy.
My understanding is they're very forthcoming right now with their financial reports.
We're working on it. We can revoke their zoning and their permits anytime we want under our law. So they have a pretty big incentive to cooperate.
Coming next week, and we're going to be examining, do space aliens occupy the bodies of Santa Cruz City Council members? See you next week, everybody. Bye-bye. Hey. All right.